Hello there everybody and welcome. This is episode 1 of my new tutorial series for Factorio. In this Let's Play guiding series, I'm going to build a factory with you together and guide you through all the steps up until the rocket. It's a vanilla game, we're not gonna have any content modding, but I will explain how to mod the game in the series because I want to show this as well because it belongs to Factorio like a pair of shoes belongs on your feet when you leave the house. So all in all, we're gonna go over all the details. What you won't find in this series, though, are extremely optimized ideal solutions to problems. There are such solutions to problems in Factorio because the game is already a few years old. The community has found out that there are a couple of optimal solutions, but the goal of this series is not to give you the feeling that every problem has one ideal solution, but I want to show you that there are for every problem tons of solutions and you should always use the one that is fun for you. And I want to show you how to do that. And that all being said, let's jump finally into it. We press new game and free play it is. There's a couple of other scenarios that we can play, but we are looking for the classic Factorio experience of launching your rocket into space. The map generator settings, I won't be changing anything here, out of the simple reason that I want to demonstrate a default setting. Here you can set up how the resources will be spawned. These are the materials that we build everything out of, except for the water, it ain't shown here. Here we can set up how the water, the trees, and other problems are distributed. The enemy panel, well, as you see here, we can set up how many enemies, but most importantly, if you want to disable enemies, here's the peaceful mode. Click that and the enemy won't even attack you. So this way you can set up a game experience where you still have the enemies in, but they won't attack you proactively. We will keep everything on default because this way I can explain the entire game properly. Down here we see how the enemy will expand and how they evolve. Basically, you're building a factory that produces dirt the local fauna doesn't like, and they grow fiercer and fiercer the more pollution they get from you. You can configure the rules for this little game, and that's that. In the advanced tab we can set even up a certain limitation to the map. If you don't, the map is simply endless, and your PC's limitations are the limit. And we can also change the costs for things, so you can make the game either easier, or no, you can only make it harder. So you can make the game harder here if you wanted to, but since we are doing a tutorial run, this ain't necessary. I just want to show you. Down here at the preview button, you can have a preview of your starting area, and this is pretty nice if you want to try out the seed in particular before you start. We also have a couple of scenario setups. Check them out if you are feeling ready for it. The seed up here, I will put it into the description box as well, so if you put in this number exactly, you will have exactly the same surroundings like I do when you don't fiddle around with these settings, that is. So, let's get started. Welcome to Factorio. We are finally crash landed on the planet. Our goal now is to escape. I want to go over a couple of the basic controls here. WASD for the movement. E for the inventory. I know that's very unfamiliar at first, but I always look for B or I. But this game has very Minecraft-y controls, so if you come from Minecraft, you will find yourself getting comfy quite quickly. But I'll assume you don't. So E for inventory, you can also close it that way. Over here, we see mineral patches. And these, if you hover over them, you get some information. If you right-click something, if you can interact with it, you will interact with it. So if we right-click that iron ore patch here, we will start extracting minerals from the ground. And as you see here, the iron ore amount goes down accordingly. There's also elements lying around in the area, like these rocks, and you can see how many resources are in there. The health points down there are all referring to weapons, so that's that. When we zoom out, there's a lot of other things that we can pick up, like these trees and whatnot. So if it ain't right-clickable though, you can't pick it up and you can't work with it. So let's get back into the inventory. I will explain all the other elements of the graphical user interface when it's time to work. So Crafting menu. Here is our inventory. That's all the things that you carry around, and you can already see there are stack sizes. So after 50 pieces of stone, we start another stack of stone. So these things are all the things that we can craft. Divided into logistics, that's all the things to store something or move a thing from one place to another. Production is, well, producing things, duh. Intermediate products all lead to another product, so they are useless by and on themselves. And combat is all the things needed for offense and defense. Everything in these tabs can be handcrafted. That means if you have the ingredients in your pocket, you can make it by just clicking it here, like that. But there are a couple of things that we can't do. Like, for example, the iron plate needs to be crafted in a furnace because we can't casually smelt things in our pocket. You can carry a train and a nuclear reactor in your pocket, my friend, but you can't smelt metal in your pocket. There are limitations. Anyway, luckily you start with a burner mining drill that is for extracting things out of the ground, and a stone furnace, so we get a nice kickstart here. We can also craft more stone furnaces as they only require stone. This stuff here, by the way, is raw stone, so we can also extract more of it if you don't happen to have these fancy boulders around you. There is one resource missing, so let's press M for the map and check out where it's at. That's the coal. Coal is the universal fuel in the game early on. You will use it for all manner of things, and this stuff is important. Okay, I'm pressing E, and now I'm picking up the stone furnace with the left mouse button. Press E again to close my inventory, and place the bad boy down. So now you have a empty fuel icon. That means I'm hungry for fuel, and we left click this now. So over here are the input slots. I'm left clicking this in there, and we now see that there's nothing happening. Obviously there's no fuel. Into the fuel slot goes a couple of things. We could use wood, but I highly recommend using coal. So goes in there, and just like that the furnace starts producing iron plates. So take these out, and it still produces. So when you now left click this thing, you will always get this. When you right click it, you will pick it up. That's not how to extract things. To extract things, you need to hold down your left control button and left click it. So you see now I picked up all the iron plate in there. Very important interaction. We're going to use that a lot. Also, if I press left alt, I can change the overlay. Like this, or like that. Here I now see what the current building is busy with, and I highly recommend keeping this up. And the crashed space wreck, now you see that there are a couple of iron plates hidden in these. So I hold down left control again and left click them, just like that. So you can, oh, there's also some magazines in the spaceship, wonderful. You can now use these things here as rudimentary storage elements. You can also just right click and hold to remove them. I'm going to keep them. Many players do because sentimental value, I guess. Alright, so now we can't really extract stuff out of the ground by hand. We need the drills to do that for us. So we're going to build ourselves another burner mining drill. If you mouse over this thing now, you see that we are still lacking more iron plate to do more in this department. So let's do this. We can now set up a burner mining drill, and I just right click to pick up the furnace. By the way, everything that you place down, I just want to show you, can be right clicked and picked up again. There is no pressure of setting something up wrong. You can always pick it up and rebuild it. That's a very, very important part of the game. And I also want to show something. When you have here this thing on your cursor, I just did that too quickly, you press Q to get it off of your cursor. That's how you do it. So the burner mining drill will now need fuel to do its thing. But you also see that yellow arrow. This shows where the burner mining drill will put the iron out that it mines. So you have now two options how you can proceed. You either put down a wooden chest. I show you both. Or you don't. I'll show you the differences. By the way, I'm now holding the coal on my cursor, holding the control button down, and I'm right clicking now. So I'm only putting in half my stack of coal instead of all of it. If you would only left click, if you only hold down, what was this again? Yeah, if you only hold down Control and left click, you put the entire stack in. So, what you see now is the difference between items dropping on the ground and dropping into a container. There it is. So, we can store the iron ore like this in a container, but in all honesty, this is not really how I like to work. We are now going to go over into the stone furnace, and since I don't want to open my inventory every time, I left click it and put it into the hotbar and press Q. I do the same thing for the burner mining drills. So now what happens if we put a stone furnace in front of this bad boy? You see the iron ore gets immediately deposited into the stone furnace, and voila, you have, just like that, your first little step of automation. Isn't it nice? The downside of this whole thing is that it still relies on you putting fuel in there, but we're gonna get there and resolve that issue in no time. Speaking about fuel, let's get ourselves an endless stack of fuel. So, before we get started, I need to pick up a few pieces of coal. Just like that. That's actually already enough. Now, we're going to pick up the burner mining drills, and we set them up like this. One goes into that way, and now I turn the other one opposite, just like that. Boom. Now, I take the coal, hold down Control, right click, left click, and now they will start mining coal and feed it towards each other. The really beautiful thing is that the burner mining drill shares its output slot with its fuel slot at that point, and if we now hold down Control and left click, you can also hold the left click, we can now start extracting coal out of this beauty. So with that, we are now armed to finally expand our business, just like that. So congratulations, that's the very first steps of automation. Iron is the resource that we require for setting up more mining, so we keep going like that. And already we are producing. There is also copper ore right next door. This is something we're not using as of yet, but we will very, very shortly. So what's now left to do is to amp up the business. But I want to show you one little trick before I do amp up the business. So these burner mining drills, the wonderful part about them is that you can set them up, this operation, up in any size that you want. So we're now going to go for it like this. And now they will start feeding towards each other. You can expand this type of chain as long as you want to. Basically, the coal patch is your limit. And since these guys are storing the coal extractable, this is the preferred way for me personally to get myself the starting materials going. So the next one that I set up is the stone one. This one I do set up like I demonstrated you before. We are going to set it up like this with a chest in front. Because the stone, I do require this for the furnaces constantly. And it doesn't show, but the burner mining drill recipe includes always one stone furnace. So we do require these. Here's another little thing. If we keep it up like that, this chest will ultimately fill up and eat up a lot of inventory spaces for us. Since we actually don't need that much stone all at once, I now press the red X here, and as you see here, I left-clicked it once. I have it now on my cursor. This allows me to limit how many of the slots of the chest shall be used for something. This way, I can now prevent this machine from producing more stone than I can ever carry, because this is a primary rule of Factorio. Everything that you store somewhere has to be moved around again. So if you want to store something, yeah, fine, you do you. So keep in mind that if it is not where you need it later on, it might be quite a hassle to transport it where you need it. Anyways, so we're going to go now for some copper. Experience shows that in the earliest stages of the game, like the ones that we are in, you need pretty much only a third of the copper compared to what you need in iron, roughly. These ratios change. Currently, we don't use copper for anything when it comes down to our expansionary plans. Copper will be used for science, because science is where we unlock new things. You see, the tools that we got are all quite nice and dandy, but here up there is also research. Research can only happen with electricity though. So the laboratories that we got will require electricity, and that's the next thing that we're going to work on. But allow me in the meantime to pause the video for a second so I can set up a proper amount of burner mining drills, and you don't need to watch because you now know how it works and it would be boring too. And here's what I did. It is not much, but it is absolutely functional and works out decent. So we can now hold down left control and just hold down left mouse click to grab our materials out of that. I have to refill coal manually pretty often, so that's the real annoying part about it. I also expanded my coal production a little bit. Here is something though that I want to point out. Don't expand too heavily in these enterprises, as we will upgrade our ways and means of doing things massively. So with the resources that we got, let's start producing power finally. So what you need for that is one boiler and 2 steam engines to get started with. We also need some small electric poles. If you don't have enough wood, you can't produce them, so grab yourself a couple of tree trunks to help yourself out of that problem. There we go. You don't need insanely many, but it certainly does help. You can now see that down there in the crafting bar, a lot of things are happening. Okay, so the next thing we do require comes from the production tab, and it is an offshore pump. When you left click it, you will start producing all the items necessary for it, as long as you have the necessary ingredients in your pocket. But this setup should provide. At this rate, at this point of the game, we also produce so much coal that we can safely feed all of our machines. But be wary. You see that red aura here? That is your pollution. From this point on, eventually the creatures living on the planet will attack you. Like I said, if you don't like that, go on for a peaceful mode. It's absolutely fine to do so, especially since the game is initially quite overwhelming. So the last thing that we require are a couple of pipes. So if I right-click them, I produce 5 of them at once. If I shift-click them, I produce everything at once. If I shift-right-click them, nothing happens. If I control-click them, nothing happens. So yeah. There's a couple of controls more that I forgot, but right-clicking for 5 of them is always pretty nifty. So we're also going to craft ourselves some pipe to grounds. You see these consist out of pipes and iron plates, so we're going to recraft some pipes again. For electricity, first off we require water, because we're running electricity out of steam. So any body of water does the trick. They are infinite, they'll never deplete, and therefore we can use them. So we're gonna go like that way. Wherever you want to produce your power, just leave up enough place to expand it properly. That pretty much goes for almost anything Factorio. Okay. Now, we take the boiler. The boiler takes fuel and transforms this fuel into steam. You can rotate it by pressing R. And you see that there are blue arrows around it. The blue arrows show you some things. The double blue arrow shows it's an input and an output. That means things can go either into this direction or out of this direction. It doesn't matter. The blue arrow, the other one with the white cloud, that's steam. This shows this is an output valve. You can't put anything into the machine at this point. Alright? Alright. So the double blue arrow also means that the water will flow through this machine, which can be really useful. I'll utilize that later. So let me check. We're going to place it down like this. So now we have the... Or do we place it down like that? No. I'm thinking a little bit ahead already, so Don't you think too much about that. Let's do it like that. I'm going to pick up the offshore pump yet again. As you can see here, things can be changed as often as you'd want to. Well, there we go. So now we take the pipes and put them into the hotbar because this is way easier than doing it the other way around. So we can already see that a direct connection is not possible. Here's where the pipe to ground thingies come into play. So we set that up here, and you see now that these yellow rectangles form around that. Boom, just like that. And now we've connected that bad boy with water because the offshore pump does create water in a magical way without power. Don't ask. So this machine now requires steam engines. These consume steam and transform that steam back into electricity. So they go this way. Here you see again they have these double connectors. That means they can take steam, but they also output steam if another recipient is there. This recipient can be either another machine, so that's why I double tacked them, or a pipe. So technically you could also set it like that and then pipe the steam over to the next machine this way. We just don't do that because we don't need to. Just want to showcase that it is possible. Alright. So the power poles definitely go into the section here. And now, power poles. Blue aura around them is their electricity coverage radius. And for the steam engines to transport any electricity, it needs to go through the electric poles. The last thing we need to do is put some fuel into it. So I hold down left control again and left click. And as you see here, an entire stack of coal disappears. So we build a lab now. Since we have electricity, we can do. And this little boy is also spreading happily its pollution into the world. Alright. As you see there, these laboratories are quite some work to be set up, but we got now one. Just like that. Can place it down now into the aura of the power pole. Or to demonstrate you, if you don't, you see this one. That's a lack of electricity. So the research lab on its own does nothing. We do require a resource called science packs. These science packs are basically the currency to unlock technology with. So we're crafting ourselves a few and go into the tech tree menu here. So there is super many technologies to unlock, but the one that I want the most right now is automation, because this allows me to unlock a machine that produces stuff, pretty much all the stuff. And as you see here, nothing happens so far. The display shows you now that 10 packages of red science are necessary, and they need to be researched 10 seconds each. Every technology has different costs. Lights, for example, require the same amount, but they process each technology pack longer. Either way, it's time to put those science packs in there. And you put it into the machine just like you put anything into any machine by picking it up, left control holding, and left clicking. I don't know why it is so anti-intuitive, but, well, once you get used to it, you will not bother thinking about it ever again. Alright, so moving back to our production site, you can already see that pretty much everybody ran out of power, except for these bad boys up here. So that's the innate weakness of these setups. So I'm now feeding them with full stacks of coal. But as you see there, the innate weakness of the setup is that if we don't manually refill the resources, nothing happens. And that is really, really bad if we want to have a fully automated factory, don't you think as well? So we're going to do this like that. This is a necessary evil, and that is why I keep saying don't do too much in that regard, because you will have better alternatives oh so quickly. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to transform massive amounts of my iron plates into transport belts. Transport belts are really what moves things around in the world. And they are really, really good. The other thing that we're building now are electric mining drills. Now that we have electricity in our hand, we can say goodbye to the burner mining drills already. That is what we're after now. So here I'm using another little feature. If I'm hovering over something that I want to build, I press Q, and now I have the same entity on my cursor. So you can use that for everything. Pipes, machines, power poles, conveyor belts, everything. So I'm going to place down now the power poles to lead them up to the mines. Automation has finished, so we'll manage about that in a second. So here goes. I hold down my left mouse button, and I start moving now. And while I'm holding down the left mouse button, you do notice what happens. We expand our power grid while walking. This is a really, really cool feature, as the game automatically will measure out the maximum distance there. So really good stuff. Okay. We do need more power poles as it stands, and technology-wise, I want to research next gun turrets and military. Gun turrets allow us to protect our factory autonomously and are therefore absolutely important for our survival. There we go. So the very first thing that I want to do in this entire factory is to set up an automated production of power. Because it really bothers me that we got still the necessity to carry coal manually around like that. This is cumbersome, bothersome, and really, really annoying in a very, very short amount of time. So that is why we kept building the conveyor belts as well, because these will help us now. Okay, I set up 3 electric mining drills even. When we check them out, they require 90 kilowatt of power. When you click one of your power poles, you can see the total amount of production. So megawatt, this is basically 1,800 kilowatt. So we have more than enough power for this business. Alright, so let's pick up the mining drill, and they have this yellow arrow for the output. Obviously, they also need to sit in the blue aura of a power pole, otherwise they can't mine. Alright, we got this. Now we pick up the conveyor belt. You rotate this with R again, and now we're dragging it down to where we produce our power at. Definitely, tell you what we're going to do. Definitely going to build up my power up here. So this is already one extremely valuable little lesson in Factorio. Whatever you do, it is absolutely smart to check for the shortest logistical pathway to the resolution of a certain problem. So here we're going to go and resolve it like that, because I just want to produce my power where the water is at. Because since this is a much shorter transportation way for the coal, I prefer that. We just pick up our old machines and set up shop somewhere else. This is something I can't stress out enough how important I deem that, to know that nothing in this game is ever truly borked. You can just pick it up, place it down somewhere else. No problem whatsoever. So you can also place down pipes, like you can place down power poles, by the way. And we're now going to pick up this. And here I'm going to go this way. So I want to place it there, so I go from the opposite way around. This really helps me to make things nice and tidy, to start from the recipient and not the other way around. So all that is now left is to place down a few power poles. Oh, wait a sec, this is also inefficient. And then we are good to go. So now you already know some of the very, very basic things. You know how to produce electricity, and you know how to use that electricity for mining's sake. In the next episode, I will go over the automation industry. The only last thing that I want to show you, what I really deem invaluable, we now build an inserter, and that inserter goes here. So we rotate it. Here goes. The yellow bar is the pickup field, and the yellow arrow is where it's being transported towards to. So nothing happens right now because there is no power, but now everything is powered up, and we extract the coal so you can see. The inserter now will pick up coal and keep this thing fired. Power transmits now over there, and new coal gets produced. It's now an endless cycle. Welcome to the world of automation. Next episode, like I said, we're going to produce things for real, and I can't wait to get there. Thanks for watching. I hope you like this series. I love Factorio, and I really can't stress out enough how important it is to me to share this love for the game, because it is one of the best games I've ever played in my life. That all being said, leave me your comments, leave me a thumbs up, consider subscribing. In the description box you will find the playlist link to the entirety of the series. And yeah, feel free to support Icon Gaming. There's a couple of links down there, and I'd be really happy if you'd check them out. And of course, a big thanks to all of you who already did so. Oh no, biters! So as you see there, this is what happens. You press C, by the way, to kill them. So see you all next time, guys, when we are going to repair that. C for shooting biters. Bye-bye.